Hey folks, welcome back to Gaming Garbage where we take a look at games, chat about the gaming news in the industry, and of course, stream for fun. Today, this is I guess a different video. Just a quick rundown. I don't really have social media ever. I pretty much gave up on it in 2020 and haven't really looked back. Now, I do have a media account on X, and I technically have a Discord, but again, I don't run it or use it really. I just don't have the time. And then, two, the internet is not real. So I don't really focus my time on that. I'm not trying to get news from social media. I don't have Facebook. I don't have Instagram or anything else. Basically, the only app I really use is YouTube. But again, it's just kind of weird. So like the last I don't know, the last few weeks or a month, I've kind of just been looking at Twitter X, and the amount of stuff on there that is bolstered by people trying to protect PlayStation as a company, as a brand, and as a console is just kind of weird. Like it's above and beyond like what we would kind of normally think, because again, this is like a multi-billion dollar company, okay? They make like 80 85 billion a year. Sony does, and PlayStation we just heard is um roughly about half. Though their numbers don't quite support that, so I'm not exactly sure if that information is correct or not. It's more like 35%, maybe 40% now. But that's still a really big chunk, right? Because Sony has killed their financial department and is cutting back on their TVs some to try to make them cheaper to make. And then PlayStation just takes a bigger piece of the pie, it seems like, every year for Sony. So Sony has become really dependent on PlayStation, but I don't think Sony needs a bunch of these YouTubers and social media experts to kind of like go to bat for them, because what I keep hearing on some of these YouTube channels, what I'm seeing on Twitter X, and then even some of the stuff that I've heard about on like Reddit or whatever, is that they're always going back to how things were, and they're never really much talking about today. Um, and that's kind of weird. It's like, let's talk about today. Most of us that actually talk about gaming, we're just talking about gaming, and we have our biases. Okay, we have our platforms that we play on, and we have our preferences and stuff, and of course those biases seep through. Okay, I've been playing on Xbox, and I really like Xbox. I really like some of the stuff that they're doing. I don't like everything, and yeah, I try to talk about all of that. And I don't like to. I like some, and also don't like some of what Nintendo and PlayStation are doing, and even Steam, and it's all kind of culminated in the gaming industry, and that's what I like to talk about here on this channel. But these guys, they don't really talk about their games. Like PlayStation guys, they don't talk about their games really. They just talk about the brand. And the gaming industry is about the games and what the companies are doing. But it's kind of weird when you don't really talk about the games much. You don't talk about the sales. You don't well, until the sales numbers actually come out and they're not as good. And then they don't talk about the sales numbers at all. So like their bias could not be any more in the forefront um, on wanting PlayStation to be just the best platform or the best place to play, right? And that couldn't be further from the truth, because when we look at how big and how and the growth of some of these platforms, mobile's the biggest one, and it's been the biggest one for roughly about a decade, and it's still growing also the fastest. It's we also have PC, not just including Steam, but everywhere else too around the world. PC is still growing, and PC is also pretty big, roughly about a billion accounts, um, and which is roughly about one third of all of the gaming accounts that are out there. So that's pretty huge. That's definitely a lot. That's an estimate anyway. But yeah, we could probably safely say 500, 750 million solid players that are playing on PC. And we know that there's roughly about 180 million that cycle through a year to take a look at Steam or whatever. And of course, they have some other accounts on other platforms and stuff, I'm sure. But like, you know, Steam is a big one. And then we have Nintendo, at least profit margin wise, and by consoles sold, and kind of how big they are in the gaming space. I would say that Nintendo is niche. That I think too with the Switch 2, they haven't gotten as big, or they haven't kicked off maybe as hard as they wanted to with the Switch 2. In fact, Nintendo's even said that. So they're working on cutting back production a little bit in the United States because they haven't sold like they thought it would. But it's still done really, really well. It's still sold really well. It's had the fastest sales growth for launch ever out of any of their other consoles. So they've had a really good start, and we'll see if that maintains. And then we have PlayStation and Xbox at the bottom. And it's really weird to listen to some of these PlayStation guys. And hey, they like their platform and that's okay. But like they're fighting for fourth place. Because again, you got mobile, you have PC gaming, a lot of it is Steam coupled with that. And then you have Nintendo. And then there's PlayStation and Xbox at the bottom. And like we already know since Xbox One, that Xbox has lost, right? Even Phil Spencer, before he retired or was pushed out, whatever, even admitted that. Even in 2023, Phil Spencer said that consoles were not growing, that they were pretty much stagnant, and we have data to back that up too. We know that. And so it's just kind of weird that these guys are fighting so hard for PlayStation and for Sony corporate when clearly the data is there too that Sony's not in a healthy place, and neither is their gaming division. Because when we take a look at PlayStation games on Steam, well, they didn't really sell. PC players had the ability on Steam to buy their games, also on GOG and Epic Game Store. But again, their games didn't really sell as good as they thought they would. And this is part of the issue too with day and date, but that's a different discussion, I think, at least for this topic. But then too, they're always comparing about how they're better than Xbox. And again, they're not even competing for a bronze medal. Okay, they're not even on the podium. They're like in fourth place. And I don't think they're going to stay in fourth place forever either. I think Xbox has completely shifted their strategy because of consumer behavior. And so they're not even, fighting that war anymore. It's more about the platform, and the hardware, and the console does not necessarily matter like it did, if really at all, going in the next 10, 20 years. I think gaming is going to look extremely different than it does now. And I think consoles are kind of over, really, whether it's Nintendo, PlayStation, or Xbox. But yeah, these guys on these social media, man, they just live and breathe this stuff, and they don't really talk about games themselves. They just talk about the brand. I'm just really glad I don't have social media, that I'm just trying to stick to what's actually happening in gaming, trying to present information and data and stories to people so that they can make a better decision or stay better informed and ultimately decide what's best for them. I mean, if you're on PlayStation or Xbox or Steam or Nintendo or all of it, I don't really care. Again, I have my preferences, but again, the masses will decide. It's not about whether you and I like a particular brand or company or game or not. It's about what the masses are doing. And I think that's what Xbox and Valve and Epic and now PlayStation and also Nintendo are looking at. They're looking at what some of these changes are, what these shifts are with the younger generations, and where they should kind of be pushing their money and focusing on stuff. And I think that's what's happening. But again, it's like some of these people, and while I don't think they're the largest amount of PlayStation players, I think they're just the loudest. So you have the smallest alt group of PlayStation brand boys that are pushing, and they're all men, which are just, again, I just think is really weird. At least all of the ones that I've seen and heard about, I just think it's really weird. And the ones that are brought up in different conversations and videos, yeah, they're all dudes, and they're all just out there to like protect Sony. And I think for a company, okay, their products and services should sell themselves, and how they treat the customers dictates whether the customers come back. And you don't need anybody to go out there and actually defend a multi-billion-dollar company. That just sounds ridiculous. And if the company is not doing very well, then that's the company's fault. Okay, and I think there should be some marketing, of course, but marketing is just another way to legally lie, I feel like, to customers lately in the last 10, 15 years. And, uh, but, but yeah, if a product is good, it'll sell, right? And the budget, I think, should match the type of audience that they're going for. And I don't think it's always a good idea to try to broaden the audience because then you kind of like build everything the same and everything's kind of the same. And there's really no competition that way, whether it's a service or a game or some other type of product. But I still think competition is important. And, I don't necessarily want any one of these gaming companies to fail. But a lot of it has kind of become monogamous, and it's just all kind of the same. Generally speaking, they're all kind of trying the same stuff at roughly the same time. If one buys a whole bunch of studios, the other one does it too, literally a year later. If someone is trying a gaming service, the others are hopping on and trying to do that. If others have been doing pay for multiplayer, well, the others end up doing that too down the road, and it doesn't really take that long. And if others are more or less shifting over to PC, well, we're starting to see that too. And I think for Xbox, it makes sense because they are in last place. I think they know that. So they've been making some of these changes and shifts. And I think in the long run, it's going to benefit Xbox. Um, but these brand boys, man, they cannot stop. And while there's some, of course, for Nintendo, okay, they'll just buy whatever. I guess like Nintendo too, but like they're not out there like trying to save or help protect Nintendo. And Xbox, I don't really see that much either. I think people are just accepting of what Xbox is and where it is, and hey, people like it, and that's cool. Um, but my word, just the PlayStation brand boys are just on another level. And it's like they don't even really play these games. I mean, supposedly there's roughly 90 million PlayStation 5s out there, and Death Stranding 2 has only sold 2 million copies. Like, what? Guys, we can't even get to like 5%? That's weird. And like with all the time they spend online talking about stuff every day or every other day, that also means that that's not time spent playing video games, and they don't really have a lot of reviews on stuff. They're not really talking about changes. They just keep bringing it back to about how they're better than Xbox, or running excuses of why PlayStation had to do something and try to like paper over the negativity and turn it around and make it positive. It's almost like they're being paid by PlayStation. It's just really weird. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. But yeah, I'm glad I'm not on social media. I would hate their life of just because it's shifting the other way, I feel like. I think people are just seeing what PlayStation is. I think the walled gardens are coming down, and I just think people are seeing what the rest of the gaming landscape is like, and it's greener somewhere else. And that's why console is kind of being left in the dust, whether it's Nintendo, PlayStation, or Xbox. I think that no matter what, it was always going to kind of go toward PC anyway, where your games were not necessarily stuck to a particular device, but just to your account. And I think it was ultimately going to become that way anyway when Valve did that over 10 years ago. So, but yeah, it's just been an interesting experience. They just sound deranged a little bit. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. It's just, yeah, it's different to kind of a video, but like this is, yeah, the gaming space is becoming more, I feel like, delusional. The gaming space is kind of becoming more emotional, instead of actually talking about what's really happening and why that's happening. And then even too in the comments that I have on some of my videos, I don't ban anybody, but like some of them just they're not even watching the video. They're not even talking about necessarily about what the focus of the video is. They're just completely focusing on what they want to talk about. I mean, that's fine, but that's one of the reasons why I have on my comments list as one of the options when I make a video, I set it to newest, not top comment. So that way someone posts and other people post on top of that, and stuff just kind of gets shifted down into the lower sets of comments, and that way too everyone has an opportunity for somebody to actually read their comment. So I think that's kind of a better way to do it. I think that's a nicer way for the community. But yeah, it's just kind of weird seeing how emotionally fragile some of them are and how much they just feel like they need to protect the brand and their whole identity is like wrapped up into PlayStation. I mean, I have a family, I have a house, I have a career job. Sometimes I'm working 72 hours a week. I have aging parents and like there's other things going on in my life. And like we just got back from a good vacation on the coast and had a fun time. And so yeah, gaming is like a my biggest hobby. It's a part of my life, but it's like I'm not living and breathing in the comments. Anyway, I'm not sure how to end this one because yeah, I'm just kind of baffled by this. But anyway, thanks for listening. I guess. What do you guys think? I've only been a channel for kind of really a couple of years, maybe almost kind of 3 now, which is kind of weird. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. I guess I'll see you guys on the next one.